I've decided Don Williams' voice is because he smokes. I might take up smoking. You realize when everybody stops smoking, there'll be no voices like this. And I know he smokes because he's got a smoker's cough. He's a skinny little fella. I mean, really, really skinny. I was surprised how skinny he is. He's lost a lot of weight, I guess, over the last few years. I don't know why, but he's thinner than he used to be, and he was never exactly a big fella. Anyway, the master distiller of Jack Daniels was kind enough to come and join us today. Glad to have you.
Thank you.
Your barrels, you're very proud of your barrels. The two things, when you did the tasting for us this weekend and then when I came to Lynchburg, the two things that you sort of light up about that seem to make Jack Daniels so special, because you give out the recipe, is the water, this cave water, that is so important to you. And you made the point that if you look at where these spirits are made in America, it is along what many people thought might have been a path that they took from the East Coast down through the South, because it goes through Kentucky and Virginia, right, Kentucky, and Tennessee. Yeah, but in fact, it's a limestone fault. It's the water source.
It is. If you draw a diagonal line out of Virginia through Kentucky and into Middle Tennessee, almost all of your old distilleries are just a few miles north or south of that diagonal line. And a lot of people thought that was maybe a frontier path, or where the pioneers kind of made their way through from the original 13 colonies. But actually, that is a limestone ridge, and you've got all of these spring waters that flow through that, and it removes the iron content from the water. It gives a very heavy mineral content, and all of those things are what you would want to make whiskey. It helps feed your yeast in the fermentation process, helps keep them vibrant. They need more than just the grains to eat. They're sort of like the human body. I take a multivitamin because I see what the water does to the yeast and how different they react when they're not grown on that.
Right. So you mix this water that y'all are so proud of, and then you mix your corn and your rye and your malted barley, and then you send it through the charcoal, and it takes days for it to drip down to the bottom. For those of you who've never been to Lynchburg, there are hundreds of thousands of people a year that go take this tour and just watch. You get to see the old still, the original stuff. I mean, it's amazing what you get to witness. And then after that, and this is what, according to you, makes Jack Daniels, is where the coloring comes in, is you put them in these barrels.
Yep.
You are the only company in the world that makes their own barrels.
Yep.
No nails. These guys hammer it in. They put the sort of sleeve around it.
Yep.
And then they hammer it in there, and then you put it in the barrel, and you put it on a rack. And for how long does it sit there?
For Jack Daniels, we do everything to taste, but what we have found is that over the years, it takes about 4 to 7 years for Jack Daniels to mature to the point that we need it to. But we always look for a nice balance of sweet and oak character. And what we've learned is that our whiskey doesn't get better indefinitely. Our oldest whiskey would not necessarily be our best, because it's sort of like overbrewing tea. There's a time it's getting better, and then there's a time you kind of hit that optimal time that you need to stop. And if you go too far, you'll make it bitter and undrinkable. And that's something when you're in a brand new barrel and in a very warm climate like we are in Lynchburg, you just have to recognize that you're sort of like brewing tea. So you need to go out and taste pretty frequently and make sure you know what's going on, and you'll bottle it when it's ready.
What did you make of the Maker's Mark issue of them first saying they're going to speed the process and then stepping back and saying, I guess the market told us we can't do that?
Well, I definitely can kind of feel some of their pain, because, Jack Daniels over the years, our black label whiskey went from 90 proof to 86 to 80, so it has gravitated downward. And a lot of that for us has just been a globalization. And I'm not certain.
And filling the market need. People want your product faster.
Yeah, it definitely did that. But also, if you look at it, across all of distilled spirits, 80 proof is sort of a standardized bottle proof, whether it's rum or vodka or whiskey. And you have a competitive disadvantage if you sell above that proof point, because you have to pay taxes on every amount of alcohol. It's incremental.
I didn't realize that.
Yes. So we'll pay more in taxes for a single barrel, which is a 94 proof product, than we would for a black label 80 proof, because it's on its alcohol content in the bottle.
I did not realize that.
So you want to make sure that you're in a competitive position. But, really, it's more of a generational thing. Each generation has not necessarily wanted the really dark, really high proof whiskeys that maybe their grandfathers did. So, we were being sold in over 135 countries at the time. I think we're up to 140 now. But we had different proofs in different countries. And we felt like we wanted all black label, regardless of whether you're buying it in the States or in Europe or Africa or wherever you might find it, to be the same. Every drop is made in the same place. we didn't want to have different proofs out there either. So 80 proof was by far our largest market at the time, so we just standardized everything to it. But we took our licks for doing it.
So you only made Jeff Arnett, master distiller of Jack Daniels, is our guest. You only made Old Number 7 until 1988, and then you started with new products.
Yep.
And your fastest growing new product has oddly been this honey infused. Tell me about that.
We came out with it in April of 2011, so it's coming up on its second year. But it was amazing. We expected it to do well because we were test marketing and everything, but we had no idea of the power of a whiskey like that. And it's a whiskey liqueur. Basically, you can add up to 2.5% of different ingredients into a whiskey and still call it blended whiskey. But if you exceed that, you have to call it something else, a whiskey speciality.
But you can't call yourself a grown man if you drink that. But come on now, this was for women.
I would tell you,
it's
for legal drinking age, for this new wave of drinkers, I would tell you that a lot of them like it. Now, a lot of people who like whiskey have told me that they think it's a little bit sweet, but I would tell you that I think it has to be too sweet to some to be sweet enough for others. So you're trying to bridge a gap there between what people want. But we put 4 different types of honey in it. It has a maple chestnut finish on it. So if people like things like pecan pie, pralines, maple syrup, things that are sweet and nutty, I tell people, when you pick up a bottle of Tennessee honey, it's like we were trying to slice a piece of pecan pie into a glass of Black Label. That's what it should be like.
told Levi Good that, and he got a big kick out of that.
Yeah,
a piece of their pie.
And he's got the best pecan pie I've ever had.
Man. I made the mistake of sending Jeff Arnett a Good Company barbecue and pecan pie, and now I think I have to send him one every couple of months to satisfy the cravings.
Yeah, my wife had a real hard time not eating it all.
Talk about American brands in the world, and Jack Daniels being one of the most identifiable brands up there with Coca-Cola, wherever you go in the world. And you were talking about what it's like to travel, and you're at a bar and someone says, what do you do? Well, I'm the master distiller of that product. Y'all are going to be is it Abu Dhabi or Dubai?
I'm in Dubai next month.
And y'all are opening a Jack Daniels at the airport there.
We are. We're going to have a bar and grill. Actually, the Dubai airport sells
because every good Muslim doesn't want anybody drinking liquor except them.
Well, the Dubai airport sells about 25,000 cases of Jack Daniels a year, and that would be roughly about 300,000 bottles of whiskey.
How does that compare to Houston Airport?
I'm not sure what Houston would be because I typically see it for like all travel retail for North America is usually the way it would be stated. But Dubai is sort of its own entity to itself, so I know exactly what they're doing. But it's got to be like a bottle of Jack Daniels being sold every one or two bottles every minute that the airport is in operation.
Entire bottles?
Yes, entire bottles.
I think I told you the story. I was at the airport in Cairo, and this was before the Muslim Brotherhood took over. And there you can't drink at the airport, except there's a hidden away Heineken bar. And so all the Westerners, I assumed, would be in that hidden away Heineken bar. No, it was all the good Muslims in full garb in there just drinking away. They just can't do it in public. It's worse than Baptists. They can't dance or drink in public. That's how you keep a Baptist from drinking all your beer on a fishing trip.
You take two of them. You got to take 2 Baptists along.
Never just one. Never just one of those non-drinking Baptists will drink it all. Well, thank you for making me a Tennessee Squire. Thank you for being our guest, and thanks for coming and joining the rodeo.
Michael, thank you so much for having us on. It's been a pleasure. I really enjoyed Saturday night for sure, meeting your friends, and I hope we'll be back next year to do it again.
Tent hopping, and you got you a new hat, which looked good, a cowboy hat, a nice black cowboy hat. Thank you, Jeffrey. Arnett.
Thank you, Michael.
Jack Daniels.